Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Schifrin, and I'm calling the meeting of the Select Board on May 6th, 2025 at 2:12 p.m. Roll call.
Veronica Kell, present. Sally Goodrich, present.
And Laura Schifrin, present. We also have joining us, Labor Council. Thank you for being here. Nelson, and Tom Cook is here. And thank you for joining us. Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank all of our veterans and all of those serving currently here and abroad, as well as all of our emergency response people here in town. We certainly appreciate all that you do for us and your families as well. They sacrifice. The meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Is there anyone else online or here that's recording the meeting? None. Chairman 1.4 Chairman's additions or deletions. I did have a complaint yesterday about smoking on the premises here. So I did pull the policy and we'll discuss that under a work session if you'd like to, or we'll do it at another meeting, but it has happened.
Harrison would like 4.3 taken out of order.
Yes, he told me.
Okay, got it.
I was just going to finish preliminaries and then do that.
Okay.
In fact, I was going to do it now, additions and deletions, and if it pleases the board, we've been asked to move 4.3 to the first item that we address. Is everybody okay with that? Yep. All ready? Thank you. And so I'll do that now. We'll be doing this after.
This is the paperwork from the treasurer. I don't know if had an introduction for the topic, just to pass around. Who wants it first?
Well, we have to make a motion and
yes.
discuss, correct? Before we.
Yes.
Okay.
4.3. Is there a motion?
Yes. I move to. Are we debating signing? What are we doing?
I would make the motion to sign and then discuss.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to sign the documents for renewal of short-term ban per Article 11 at 5/2/23 town meeting for $142,500 award to Unibank at 4.35% interest, no premium or reoffer.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to know what these this fund covers. I'm sure it's probably capital requests from the annual town meeting. Is it itemized on there? On the paperwork?
The last page of the 3 I provided has that.
Sabrina may know.
Put on there. This is just not online, then she can call that for that question.
Do you want to have Melissa to explain? But
I mean, I'm looking at the documents right now, and it was from the annual town meeting 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was for fire EMS, it was an ambulance. There was a fire truck, and then in highway there was a pickup truck with a plow, a culvert camera, and a 10-foot wing plow. So that was in highway, and then in facilities there was a pickup truck as well as storage cabinets.
Do we know which ones were for borrowing? Because certainly all of that isn't $142,500.
So the fire EMS was borrowing through ambulance receipts. The remainder was just borrowing. So
Right.
This is basically a short-term loan. I think you only pay the
interest
the interest on it, not the
for a
principal.
certain number of periods.
Correct. So this is the second year of the short-term loan, and I think typically in the third year, that's when you pay for interest and the principal.
I don't know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it's the whole 9 yards. If you look
Yeah,
at the
correct.
amounts,
Yeah,
okay, it's
yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comment? My only comment would be, I wish this was the interest rates that the buyers could use to purchase their home.
4.35, yeah, that's a
It'd
pretty
be
good rate.
amazing,
Yeah.
huh?
It would be amazing right now. We certainly got rid of a lot of first-time home buyers. Okay, so, you have the document?
Can we vote? Should
Oh,
we
yes.
vote?
There was no further discussion. Ready to vote?
Yes, Veronica Kell, yes.
Margaret, yes.
And Laura Schiffern, yes.
And paperwork
Is
is,
what-
Let's go back up. I just handed you the signature page. I think.
To who?
I handed it to you, I thought. Oh, no, here we are. This is it.
So Harrison will just need to witness her signature and then he'll sign and stamp it. And then
I'm watching.
it's good to go.
It doesn't matter.
No, whichever line you like.
Again, I think it's a good deal.
it doesn't have to be full.
Very much. And thank you for accommodating it out of
No
order.
problem.
Oh, nice.
1.5, review and approve the meeting minutes for March 18th and March 19th.
I make a motion to review and approve the meeting minutes for 3/18/2025 and 3/19/2025.
Who seconds?
Second,
Any discussion?
I have a couple changes, which I will get to. Sabrina, they're mostly, remove of the, or change an ED to an ING. They're that sort of things. They aren't content changes.
Okay, mine
So,
were the same. Do you have any?
No,
No.
I'll abstain from this vote. So
Okay, all right. Then we're ready to vote,
Veronica Kell, aye.
and Laura Schiffern, yes. Thank you. We have no appointments under 2. 3.1, appoint town clerk Harrison Mayotte as records access officer, RAO, until town election of April 27th, 2026. Is there a motion?
I move to appoint Harrison Moyet, pronunciation, sorry, as records access officer RAO until annual town election on April 27th, 2026.
Is there a second?
I want to amend the motion. So should I second this and then make my amendment?
No, you amend it now, and then it can be seconded.
All right, I move to appoint Harrison Mayette as Records Access Officer until July 1st, 2025. And my reason for that is I would like to see with the records grant that we got for $130,000, I would like to discuss having someone, I don't know who, maybe the assistant town clerk, to be the records access officer, as well as to work on that grant with the departments, because I don't know how that's going to be administered. So I asked, I think I sent that. Did I send it to you, Sabrina? An idea for, and to you, Nelson. I'm pretty sure I sent that idea.
Can't remember.
Was this to July, did you say July 1st, 2025?
5, yes.
Okay,
Through the end of the fiscal year.
okay,
And to give us time to
Okay.
decide how that grant is, to understand how that grant is going to be administered. And it would make sense that the person working on that grant would also be the records access officer, because they would know where the records are. We have a serious records issue in
Yes,
this
we do.
town hall. And that's my
And that
reason
was
for doing that. So we could revisit it. If in fact we aren't anywhere with that, then we make another appointment.
Okay.
So that's the amendment.
Is the town clerk usually also the records access officer?
Typically, yes.
Yeah.
Typically, yes, but not always.
And as Veronica said, we have a problem with records. So the grant would be very helpful to find out where
Is
we
that
are
grant
and what we should have
finalized?
done.
Yeah, we did receive it. And when you say problem with records, we just have a lot of paper is what it comes down
Well,
to.
you also can't find them.
I suppose, but it's really the volume of paper that we have in every nook and cranny that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
really need to
Is the
digitize
town
everything.
bound to have only one records access officer, or?
You can have more than one, I believe. Is that true, Jane? Do you know?
Typically, each department would have its own records.
Records
Oh,
person.
right.
I just think we need to talk about how records are managed in town hall. And this goes too with the warrant article for public records
Oh,
request.
absolutely. I'm not,
The
I'm not saying it
revolving
doesn't.
fund.
I'm just wondering if removing that from this individual versus adding an additional records access officer,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Is there a way to do?
I don't, did you mean removal? I mean, it was just a length of time.
No, I
to
wasn't
to
removing. I was just
discuss.
appointing until July 1st. And then we can have a discussion about how records are being handled, kept, organized, found. What happens when a public records requests come in? How is that handled? Do all the people on all the boards have to, on a weekly basis, turn in all their private emails from that were done with town people? Because there's a public records request out there for everything on my private devices, phone, et cetera, from the past 5 years. With all the people in town, no specifics about anything, just, yeah, give me everything. So are we going to every week have all boards and committees turn in their stuff? Or how are we going to be handling these things? I think there needs to be a discussion.
Does,
And these requests come from vegetables.
yeah, oh yeah, trust me, I understand. I already get the anonymous emails. I completely understand where you're coming from. I'm just wondering, what would we change on July 1st with regards to the,
Decide whether or not we're going to continue with this structure or a different structure.
thinking, sorry.
I'm good with giving it the, appointing him till then, and when we have more information, we'll make another decision, but we can have conversation about it,
I just,
discussion.
my only concern is that this comes off as a undermining of the position at all. I'm making
I
sure
don't
that's
think
not.
so. If they're supposed to be recognized with every department, and I think that should be made clearer as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's been, interesting the last 5 months
Oh,
to
yeah.
see how many, have come in with like, I might have had one in the 40 years for, I don't know if it was housing
That's
authority
the
or
same with me.
assessors,
And
then all of a sudden,
Could, is it possible, because the town clerk is in charge of those records, to have them involved in those discussions?
absolutely.
oh
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Just, I also, because I think this is also somewhat, in my point of view, it's also, our boards and committees aren't given much information. So this is kind of, I think, related to that to some degree. I think there's lots of policies just that I've initially, like, I can't access any of them because,
I can't get to any of the policies online either, all of a sudden.
yeah.
I
Yes, the
used to be
website
able
is
to, all of a
terrible.
sudden, a second link won't open.
Yeah, so, but so
First
I
link
think
will,
this is
second
a conversation. I just want to make sure that all parties that participate are involved in that, because I think that the town clerk is the first point person for the elected boards. And I know there's a lot of policies, the two that I've looked at that apply to elected and appointed boards. in addition to town
There's more.
employees. And so, and as a elected board member for 9 years, I never received those policies, and I didn't know they applied to those boards.
Right.
So,
I mean, there's a lot.
yeah, and there's a lot of training and stuff that isn't done on that. So as long as, I'm fine with that, as long as the intention is to get everybody involved in the conversation.
I think so far what I've seen that we've done is an idea, discussion, and then if the policy change was gonna be made, it was first reading, second reading, and we even went to a third one time, and all of that's done in public
Yeah,
meetings.
that's fine.
And certainly anybody can chime,
Absolutely.
well, not anybody can chime in, I shouldn't say that way, but, you know, we do address
Yeah.
other comments.
Yeah.
and
No,
discussion.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I just want to make sure everybody that is part of this is involved in the discussions of how to do it best. That's all.
Yeah, I'm good with
I
that.
wanna make sure that everybody gets involved, that knows they're supposed to be involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and in cases they don't know that they're
Yeah.
supposed to be involved.
Precisely.
And I don't want anybody to say, well, we already have a records access officer, so why do we need to have that discussion? That's the counter to what you're saying. So anyway,
But the state recognizes different ones, not just the town clerk, not just it being. one
whoever
person.
you designate, yeah.
You're
whoever
saying
you
there's
designate.
multiple often in town
There
records
can
access
be
officers.
For example,
Right,
the
yeah,
chief is
I am one,
probably
yeah, I'm
the
the one.
public records
Yeah.
officer for this department,
Right,
but,
I like it because you can tether it to making sure that they have proper training or whatever, you have a policy internally. They can tether it to this.
And-
the town clerk is typically the public records officer for the whole town, because they're the keeper of the records. So having the assistant also be a public records officer, there's no problem with that.
I think that, well, I'm the one that's been working on the public records policy. I think that we have to have people trained in how you respond to public records. We've had public records requests not go unanswered because no one realized that the 10 days had passed.
I just want to make sure that we're adding to the other people too, instead of taking away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's mine. I just want to make sure
Okay.
that's the case.
So that was my amendment. So now we need a second, right? My amendment was to change the date to 7/01/2025, and that will also force the conversation before that. So,
Second.
You second, okay. So basically a friendly amendment to your motion, which is fine. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, can you just read the whole motion of the effect plans?
Veronica, would you repeat the motion with your amendment?
the amendment was, the motion is, I move to appoint Harrison Mayotte as Records Access Officer until July 1st, 2025.
Second.
After second, okay. Any further discussion? Bring on roll call.
Margaret Jai.
Veronica Callahan.
Laura Schiffern, aye. Okay, 4.1. Affordable reallocation of affordable housing ARPA funds for policy.
Do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Sure.
There is a policy on this. Sabrina couldn't find where anyone else had ever filled out this form, even though we've allocated, the town has allocated and reallocated funds all over. It's normally just been done in a meeting, and the change has taken place on the chart, the 01 through ARPA 01 through ARPA 27. So I started to fill this policy out. Does everybody have it there? And I read through it, and it really didn't apply. This is for the reallocation of the funds from ARPA 06 Affordable Housing Trust into the
100,000.
the salaries. Yes, 100,000. So
the reporting has been done with Capital Strategic Solutions on April 30th, and the 100,000 is being reallocated towards just, I think the term is general salaries, which makes it as open-ended as, and it gives us the flexibility, and that's certainly allowable. So that has been reported to the Treasury Department, so that's all set. This vote is really just internal, just to sort of clean things up and, make sure that, the money is being allocated towards, wages and salaries.
Then do you want me to make a motion?
I was just gonna say, is there a motion?
I move to reallocate the $100,000 from the ARPA line for ARPA 06 Affordable Housing Trust to salaries and wages.
Second.
Any further discussion? So, what is needed now? Did we sign something?
Nope, it's just a vote, just to get it on the record. Like I said,
Okay.
the reporting is done with the treasurers,
Oh,
the
that's-
Treasury Department already, so, everything is sort of buttoned up at this point. The housing trust, ARPA money.
So that's in, what you're saying is that that's in general salaries.
Yes, it will be put towards general salaries.
Okay.
Yeah. Gives us the flexibility to put it towards, basically anything, we, that's allowable. That's wages and salaries.
Okay.
So, second,
I made the motion.
There was a second.
Yep.
And we discussed, roll
Okay.
call,
Veronica Kell, yes.
Margaret, yes.
and Laura Schiffern, yes. 4.2, town website support. Metro request to terminate contracts. Is there a motion? I read the email.
Here under 4.2 in the packet.
Yeah, it's 4.2.
Oh, here.
Questions from the board? Or motion?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I don't have a lot of background information on this particular thing, but with this contract, having read through it today, I see a lot of issues with the website right now.
Yeah.
Because, as a select board member, I have to ask Sabrina for any policy document I want, because I can't access it. And I know the public is very frustrated right now. And a
can't
lot of
either.
that,
We are too.
a lot of those come through public records requests, because those documents aren't accessible. And I'm just wondering, with regards to this contract, is there any, I guess I would ask you guys, and Nelson in particular, how that will work. Is there any way is it going to be finished? Is it
Well-
not? Is it not?
The
If
email-
it's all we've paid for, and that I can understand that also, then we just need to hire, our next person is in charge of fixing it. I just want to make sure that, right now, I
What
can't
recourse do
access.
we have for the condition of the?
I
Is that what
mean-
you're trying to say? How can we get?
Yeah,
what
I'm
we're
just
supposed to
looking at the
get?
contract. I see some areas where it says the work has to be completed. And I'm wondering if there's any way to, for that. It might not be with this contract. If we're rescinding this contract, that's understandable. And I'll take the guidance on that. I just want to know what our plan is to get the website fixed.
so,
If is it just the next employee, that's fine. I just want to make sure.
so us terminating the contract was requested by the vendor because, of, conflict of interest.
Totally understandable.
So between now and then, what we can do is they intend to terminate it on May 31st.
Yep.
So between now and then, we still owe them some money, and so they owe us some work hours.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
whatever, issues we've been able to identify, let's put them in a ticket.
Okay.
Send it
Great.
to the vendor and have them, complete as much as
That's,
possible.
I
And-
just wanted to make sure that was something that we could do.
Yeah.
Just see what work we can still get done
Correct.
for that.
And,
That's all I
and,
wanted
that-
to
and on June 1st, whether it's a vendor or a staff member that handles
Absolutely.
the responsibilities afterwards, we can discuss what that ends up looking
Yeah.
like.
Great.
So, but I certainly want to make sure we get our money's worth because we are paying for it through the end of May.
Yeah.
So,
And also, I think just for the public's sake, because I know I've fielded a lot of frustration with the website, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up.
so, if whatever links that might be broken, send them to Sabrina.
Okay.
We'll open a help desk ticket right away just to get some.
It's already open.
Okay, so we're
Okay,
working on
great.
it.
That's fine.
There's a lot of, because I also have tried that and very frustrated. I have been right along for all year, actually, on it. But now it seems that stuff I was able to open before on the website, I can't open now. And when I went to a certain policy yesterday and it sent me to
Yeah.
another link, it said error 404.
So I was trying to access policies yesterday.
I can't get to, and I used to be able to, because I have used this website for the past 4 or
Yeah,
5
so
months.
has somebody been changing things on the website?
Over the weekend, it changed, or within the last week, I would say. The ability to get to a secondary link, so you can get to the first one, that's not a problem. But if you have to go to another, if it sends you to another page, you cannot get there.
No, right.
It
And I
either
just think
just comes
that,
up
yeah.
blank, or you get the file
error,
not
yeah.
found 404 error.
And I just want the public also know that we are aware of this.
Yep.
And
Yep,
we're
we-
working
we
on,
have
and
a-
that it had nothing to do with this board
It doesn't have
not giving
anything to do with
access
us.
to, yeah.
We're as frustrated as everybody else is in town.
So we have a help desk ticket already in place, so we'll have the vendor.
What guarantee do we have that he's gonna fix the problems? That the vendor is going to fix the problems?
I think if you isolate the issues, they will, I think they have the capability and will fulfill it before
My
the
issue
end of the
with
month.
that is they are reactive only. There is no proactive action. In other words, they're not looking at the website saying, this isn't working, I need to fix this. What they're doing is if we tell them something, they will fix it.
So hopefully that when I know there's a job description post attached to this, that will be resolved when there's,
Yeah, and that job description, these are, actually, I pulled them out and sent them to Sabrina. They were the ones that were posted when we did this job originally. And so the wording has to be changed in here because our website was the Drupal website when we were Civic Plus. It is no longer that. So the underlying language used to develop the website has changed. So there are things in here that we need to talk about and see if we want them to be different. The other thing, so that is for, and this would be someone who is an employee of the town, not a contractor, and who would work with the departments to make sure that the sites are all up and to do pages for those boards and committees that don't have a staff member assigned to them. The other thing about this is I would like, this is just in general, I would like a discussion with Revise to find out if we can get something. This is not the website that was shown to us in October of 2022. And I don't know why, when the transition happened, it didn't happen differently. Maybe it wasn't 23. I wasn't a select board member. I was still a select board member. So it had to have been 2022. And then we had to go to town meeting to get the money, to have the website done. Things did not get transitioned. The documents that were available even last March are no longer found on this website, and things are back several versions in some cases. All of that needs to
And
be
that's
looked
under
at.
this contract. This is this contract, right? That we were supposed to get certain things but didn't get them.
Well, this was Revise, which is,
Two different vendors?
Revise is, so Civic Plus was the website platform. so to speak. Now we have Revise. We moved away from Civic Plus. They provide an outline, so to speak, for your website. And that's where we were. And there's different levels of service that you can buy as far as you have one of those websites where it all scrolls up, you know, those, or is it one where you go page to page to page to page? I thought we were getting one that this beautiful scrolling thing that it's on there's a demonstration and everything. We didn't get that. We got Civic Plus with a different platform and not as good. That's what we got. And then what this contract does is maintain the pages, fill in the content that we have. And I don't know what happened when it transitioned last June. I don't know what happened. I don't know if all departments were expected, and probably you don't know, none of us sitting here really know. Were all departments expected to look at their page and say, this is what I want, this is what I want there? And was someone from each department trained as to how to
Make changes.
how to update the page? I don't know if that happened.
Yeah, this during the transition when Eric was about to leave, Ross came on board. So I think Ross had a lot on his plate, and you know, this might have been one of the things that
That's fine.
slipped through the cracks. And
So we need to fix it.
yeah, so
I think we should talk to Revise and see what platform we have, how much does it cost to get some. Civic Plus had people that you could call and you could say, hey, how do I make this happen? And they would work with you. There was a customer service person. I don't know if we have that with Revise.
Another just
Sabrina hasn't.
Yeah, Madam Chair, there were training links provided when we first switched over. Some of the training links expired, so we had new training links issued for that. There are certain people that have access to the website to edit their pages. The expectation was that every department that has access edits their own pages going forward, but I believe not everyone did the training links. That was reissued and resent out, but it is up to the departments to training links.
See, on Civic Plus, those training links were always there.
There was one initial training with a big video that was recorded. A lot of people participated, not all of them. And then there was another training session, 2 training sessions that were Revise. And then after that, links were issued for the training. So there was training there, but
So, I mean, I'm fine with saying the contract. I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that we need to keep discussing this.
oh yeah, absolutely.
I also have a concern that we're going to have a gap where the website won't be able to be revised because we don't have people who are able to revise it, and we won't have a vendor, you know, whose responsibility
And that's to where it is in just this last week. But that's a question.
I can look into it. I'm not sure what's sort of transpired within the last week or so where so many links that used to work no longer work.
Right.
But I'm hoping maybe the ticket that we put in may shed some light on that. But I will make sure that MetroGov does as much as they can within the allotment that we pay them for to, you know, button up as much as they can in the transition, all the credentials. And
So they actually weren't responsible for the site itself. They just did updates to it. I'm trying to clarify.
yeah, they would be the ones to update documents, revise certain pages.
But they didn't build the site.
No, that was revise.
But the piece that I think was missing is nobody went in after Revise said, okay, here's the site. That there was a disconnect between saying, here's the site, and people checking to see if the site was what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I don't think,
And I think that
I think
could be transitions of
Yes.
this entire floor, so that could be part of the problem too. Without-
We'll make
Yeah, want me
sure,
to
we'll make
make a
sure
motion?
things are approved.
To rescind the contract, then we can still work on the other parts of it.
Yeah, yeah, we're just talking about the mental health contract right now.
4.2.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you want a motion to rescind the contract? Or
It's to terminate the contract,
terminate?
effective 5/31/25.
I move to terminate MetroGov's contract with a proposed effective termination date of May 31st, 2025.
Second.
And so we're terminating the contract or they are?
They requested that we officially make a vote to terminate it.
This is per their request that we're
Correct.
terminating.
Correct.
Should the motion say that?
I can reword it. I move per MetroGov's request to terminate the Townsend website support contract effective May 31st, 2025.
And second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just want to discuss after this is over and before we get out of here, whether or not we are going to post for a webmaster. And because we need someone on June 1st to step in if we're terminating on May 31st. So I would like a plan for that. The job description and the posting needs to be updated and put out there. So I would like to make, after we vote this, I would like to make a second motion to have that done.
We're going on this one first.
Okay. If no further discussion on the current motion, I'll take a vote.
Veronica Kell, yes.
I go to Jess.
And Laura Schifrin, yes.
I would like to make a motion to, for the webmaster posting to be updated, the webmaster job description to be updated to fit the current state of the town website, and accordingly to post for the job of webmaster. And I don't know, like, it's grade C, step 1. I don't know what the hourly rate is.
Tell you that right now, just 2 seconds.
Is this in our current budget?
It's at 650. It's one of
Yeah,
the
it is.
lines on the BOS section.
Just wanted to make sure that.
6,500, 650.
Yeah, it's part-time.
It's 5 to 7 hours a week for a maximum of, this says 6,000 annually. What we put in the budget is 6,500. And what is the FY? We should be looking at FY 26, so we'd have to up that by 4%, correct? Do we have the 26 numbers?
Just a second here. It would actually just go by,
Yeah, you could just two up, yeah.
it's actually just 2%. So that,
I thought it was
that would
2% cost of living. Okay, so just go up 1, I guess.
so this is grade C.
Step 1.
$19.93 an hour.
1993. Let me get this to Sabrina. I did some scribbles, and then you can look and see if it's anything.
Okay, we'll have Callie post it. So this
Yeah,
would be.
for Callie, it's for Callie.
So we would post this internally, right?
I would post it internally first, and if no one steps up, then we could go
Okay.
and post that externally.
Okay.
So do I need a motion for that? Did I make a motion?
You did make a motion.
Did anybody second it?
Seconded.
I thought we were discussing it, actually.
Yeah, okay, I just don't remember.
Are we done with discussing?
I am.
None. Okay, vote.
Veronica Cal, yes.
I go to Jess.
And Laura Schifrin, yes. Thank you. For that. Okay, 4.4, discuss, review, approve, potential revised fiscal year 26 omnibus budget. Nelson.
I think there was maybe it's some potential that we would revise the omnibus budget, given with some changes being considered. Not certainly not by the select board. So I think probably the best course is to stick with the budget that we voted on last week and, present that to the voters. I know there's a different version floating around that might be presented to the voters at town meeting tonight, but, that's certainly not the select board's version. So I think it's probably best to stick with your version of the budget and see what happens tonight.
Comments from the board.
We developed a budget that I have full confidence in. It may not be perfect, but it's what we developed. It's what Nelson worked with the department heads. We cannot be involved in the day-to-day of the running of town hall. Nelson is the person that all the department heads report to. I find it curious that the FinCom can work with the department heads when we, the Board of Selectmen, cannot. So that's an interesting maneuver. I also find it interesting that a private citizen can become an ad hoc member of the FinCom and provide budgets to the Finance Committee for consideration. I guess I'm wondering why Lori and I couldn't get a private citizen to come in and work with us as a third member of the Select Board.
I thought we had joint meetings in February through and before March 1st. Joint meetings, twice a week, minimum.
Okay, I'm
With the
passing
finance
this out.
committees and met with department heads. So how people are saying that we didn't have joint meetings or met with department heads. And Nelson, you have since talked to department heads in reference to this budget that the select board voted on.
Yes, as much as I can, as I, mentioned quite a few times, with the collective bargaining, units that we have in place, what I can or can't talk about is kind of limited in that regard, and that's, through the advice of, town labor council, so.
Is this your write-up of our process?
Article 1.
So as much as I want to be as transparent as possible, there's certain details that we're just limited of what we can openly discuss with employees. And, certainly after town meeting, we will then engage with the unions to come to the bargaining table to discuss the proposed changes. But that's certainly not going to happen until after town meeting is over.
That's the process. But Veronica, did you want to read this report into the record?
I would like to read it for Article 1 at town meeting tonight as the report of the Select Board on the budget process. So what I would like is for each of you to take a look at it, and I'd like a vote as to whether or not we go forward with it as the report of the committee, for just as all committees make reports should they want to, and
Sure.
do it as Article 1 of the annual town meeting. I prefer not to read it into the record now in case there are changes to be made,
Okay.
and that it be
understood.
brought forward at the.
Because we have labor council here, can I just ask a question? Is that permitted? And you can say the answer. So the way, when cuts were made to union positions, the way this was portrayed in the budget was with a line item for that grouping. In your work with other towns? Is that typically what happens when there's, you don't have to say if you want to, but do you want me to show you an example?
Sure.
Sure. So, where the select board decided within this grouping that there's some union staff, that there would be a change. Instead of putting out what the exact change would be, they grouped these staff together and put a total.
Until the budget's determined, there isn't a starting point to make proposals to the unions. So if the town is going to propose eliminating positions or reducing hours, it would propose to the impacted unions what those changes would be. So obviously, until we know the budget amount, that would be step one. Because if they decide to cut somewhere else and not what you're thinking of, and the bottom line ends up being the same, but just with a different.
If the town meeting tonight, they decide to cut
Right.
some votes.
So that's as soon as we have those numbers, then we'll be able to schedule meetings with the unions and make the proposals and negotiate the changes.
Can I ask a question follow on? So what I heard this morning is that they're giving blocks of dollars to each category and saying this much needs to be cut. What happens if the decision of the department head is to reduce staff hours? Then how does that work? I mean, are they required to cut it from other than staff dollars if the employees in that department are union employees?
Again, I think it goes back to what the budget is and how the cuts are made.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't either, and with how the cuts were made.
If I'm not quite sure how the votes will occur. So will it be in the past? I believe they voted by functional segments.
Yes.
Correct.
So if that's the same, then the cuts would be made within those functional segments.
Yes, understand that part. But if the voters decide to take all into their own hands at the meeting tonight and eliminate or reduce certain line items versus the segment, which they've been doing segments since Kreidler was here, 19 or so. And I don't recall in the years any line items being removed, certainly from any of the budgets. So I don't know what they're thinking of how they're going to do this.
I think we're going to have to see what happens.
I just wanted to point out there was something that I realized. If you recall, I was going to put some of the ARPA money into the snow and ice wages. Looking further into it, in order for us to be able to deficit spend, what the state has said is that it can't be below it. So what we would need to do at town meeting is to actually amend that section of the snow and ice. I would restore the snow and ice expenses and, reduce it from the remainder from highway wages to come up with roughly $100,000, because we can't reduce it from snow and ice, because that would mean we couldn't deficit spend next year, which is not, that would be a non-starter.
Right.
Okay.
So, so that would be,
have enough to take it from salaries,
there is,
because that's overexpended. And then there's no paving because of it. Am I getting this wrong? Okay.
It's the dollars in highway is high enough to reduce the amount of the ARPA. I don't know that there's any
In our
other,
full budget.
yes.
Yep.
I don't know that there's, unless we go to public safety, I don't think there's that many staff hours in any grouping.
So, that would, that would certainly mean, 26 is fine, but then when you start developing the 27 budget, the highway, budget now looks artificially low. And then when you have to bring it back up to regular levels, it looks like it's a big increase, but everyone knows this, these one-time funds creates that,
And we have been able to recover from all the other cuts that were, all the other staff hours that were covered by ARPA previously,
so,
in
yeah,
previous years.
so it's just during budget season, everyone just needs to remember what happened the year before and why it artificially looks higher in the upcoming year. It's because the ARPA, it just gives you a false sense of everything is fine, but then the following year, things significantly increase. So that's what happens when you use one-time funds to cover general fund expenses. So it's just the nature of the game. It's just simple math. So that was the only change I can think of that we would need to amend the select board's approved budget. It doesn't change the total of that functional segment. It just moves again, the ARPA from snow and ice wages back into the highway.
So give me those reports and let me cross out a board.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Are we looking to vote on this?
We need to, do we have to have a motion made to amend that at the meeting tonight?
We would.
We will.
Otherwise,
You'll prepare that motion?
I will.
It's supposed to be in small names, just remove that. And this is something that we used to do on planning board when we had articles on the annual town meeting. You gave a report. The hearing was, it was posted in there. We had so many meetings. It was continued so many times.
She just mentioned payment. Beth said she gave you, yeah. Okay.
I noticed the chief was here. Did you want to talk about his budget at all, or?
I asked him.
Oh, okay.
He's here to observe.
Okay, good. Sure.
Yeah, no, if there was any questions when it came to mind, I'm just kind of trying to see where everything's at. Appreciate it.
It's the motions. We'll talk about it in a couple of minutes.
I already have some. Is this just the special?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though what we have decided and to present is less than the 0.5% increase over last year, there's a lot given up for being that low.
And I think what people kind of maybe don't quite understand is for many years now, we kind of have put Band-Aids on the situation, you know, increasing ambulance receipts, using free cash, stabilization to cover that. It's back to my point earlier. Those are one-time funds. You know, you fix the issue this year, but next year the problem is still there, and what do you do then? Eventually, you sort of run out of Band-Aids to fix the situation. So, and you know, this is kind of where it's gotten us, where we simply don't have enough revenue to cover all of our expenses, and we've run out of a Band-Aid, so to speak, to fix the budget. So, you know, people say that's a structural defect in municipal budgets. Prop 2.5 certainly doesn't help us. So when you add everything up, it's a snowball effect, and year over year, you know, it stays with you until it comes to a point where you simply need an override or you need to make cuts to make it work.
In your expertise, Nelson, do you think any of this could have, if we had had a better continuity over the past 5 years? Because I know, is there like the 5-year plan, the proposed plan, you know, our fiscal outlook seems to be like, do you think any of this could be avoided if we had had more continuity?
Maybe a little bit, but I think the override problems that we are having, it's not unique.
Oh, yeah.
It's not unique.
No, I know every other town I talk to in Selectboard, I talk to, they're also having this problem. I'm just.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to let people understand that we're not alone in this situation, and it's not a lack of the details. We could all argue how we would do things differently, and we can learn and go into next year. But this situation isn't just Townsend.
Right. Yeah, and I think even though we have lacked continuity over the last several years, I think even if we had stability, you know, within town government, I think you would still run into the same issue. It's like I said, it really is a structural issue. When the school budget this year is North Middlesex is 6.5%, you know, above last year, and last year was pretty significant as well. You know, those effects are compound on each other, and you know, even at 6.5 for 1 year, like how do you afford that? You know, it's very difficult. That 4% doesn't seem like a lot, but it's over $600,000. In addition, you know, to 2.5%, that's all we can afford. So again, we've been relying on you know, one-time funds to sort of build a balanced budget, but that's not sustainable. And you know, most places, including the state, will tell you that's, you know, not the way to do it. But we all know, you know, part of the issue is, you know, the school funding formula, and we've this year certainly have done quite a bit to make our voices heard, advocate, you know, for the school district, spoken to our local legislative, you know, certainly Representative Scarsdale, Senator Cronin, you know, writing letters to the governor, participating in budget meetings, you know, in Beacon Hill. So I think we've done quite a bit. There's multiple advocacy groups out there as well, you know, Project 211 plus. Yeah.
Hopefully, this will not help us for FY26. The increased funds in the cherry sheets for regional schools, I don't expect that to trickle down to the town. The towns, our cherry sheet was level funded in the unrestricted general government from level funded to FY25. So the increase that was originally in there with the governor's budget was removed. And so we will not be getting an increase in on the other. So in any event, that's detrimental to us, yet we still have to, well, we have to fund the schools. Of course, we have to fund the schools. And at this point, Ashby and Pepperell have both funded it. And so we will also fund it. And the schools aren't required to trickle down any of the additional funds that they get to the towns. The towns have accepted the budget, and that is that. The most we can hope for is that our school committee representatives put as much effort into advocating for the towns with the school budget for FY27.
Hopefully they can do 2.5%, because it's unrealistic what's been happening the last few years. Coming in with their budgets, it's not sustainable.
And so I think that in this budget that we're putting forward tonight, where we've looked for the bulk, Nelson talked to all the departments, but where we looked for the bulk was really in the town hall, cemetery, and park recreation area. Because that is I feel the adjustments that were made as far as staff hours goes is minimal. Next year, if we see another 1 million plus increase, original ask from the schools, the places that you go to for the cuts are much more significant as far as quality of life in Townsend goes. And the year after that, even more so. And then, so I am not an advocate of the chop off the head, just take the thing, cut straight across. I feel like this budget does a more, for lack of a better word, refined look at where cuts can be made. So it doesn't do an across the board cut. And we have difficulty with that anyway, with personal services contracts, with all sorts of other things.
So I do have the motions drafted. Town council has reviewed it, given their feedback. So what we would need to do here is just figure out who reads the motions.
Before we go on to that, can I ask about this? Can we have a vote on whether or not to put in a report for the, for Article 1?
I'll make the motion. I'm going to abstain just because it's the budget process and that wasn't
Yeah.
involved.
Part of it.
No offense to anybody here, it's just the whole process of the time between election and budget. But I'll make a motion. What is it?
It's not on there.
Yeah,
It's part of
I'll make
the
a motion that the select board for the 2026 budget process be submitted as the
report.
on Article 1.
A second.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
Is it good with you?
Yeah. It is what it is. It's
I'll
what it is.
abstain
Okay,
from this
all
purpose,
right,
but
yeah.
it's, like I said, just for.
Is it okay?
Just the facts.
It is. Just the facts, yeah. Okay, so do we need to vote?
Yes.
Veronica Cal, aye.
Laura Schiffern, aye. Valerie abstained.
Thank you.
The report.
So here are the motions for tonight.
I won't be abstaining next year, I promise.
So why don't we start with the, why don't we start with the articles in the special town meeting? There's only 4 of them. I'm not sure.
Oh, do you have handouts for us with, or is it in our packet?
The handouts, I have it in my office. I'll get everyone a copy. Basically just the budget. With the recap.
Are we looking at the budget with the recap?
No, we're looking at the motions
Oh,
to see
okay.
who.
Oh, that's
reads-
what I was looking for, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
See who reads them. So let's look at the special town meeting one first. Not sure who wants to go first or second.
Well, I think Laura should start first because she, as far as making making the motion, because she's the chair, and we'll just go round robin.
That's fine.
So,
I'm happy to read any long ones.
Wherever it ends up. Then there's no,
Yeah, exactly.
preference.
So Laurie is Article 1.
Unless we get to something that is, when we get to like planning.
yeah, we can,
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, basically, and I never understood why Article 1 is in the special as well as the annual.
It didn't used to be,
Oh,
but now
I put it in there
is.
just to cover our bases,
Um,
so. I read-
for,
It's
mean,
there now, we're
Oh,
not
here
moving it.
hearing,
Yeah.
are we expecting any reports in special?
Hard to say.
Okay, all right. I'm
Like I
good.
said, I put it in there just to cover
Okay.
ourselves.
I'll do number 1.
I'll do the second one. So you are Article 3.
Now,
Who wants to do number 4?
oh, I guess that's me. If we go in order.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so,
Do we need to talk about anything in the motion, or are we good?
well, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
But I understand that, and of course, we did this with the department heads as far as like, what we allocated from capital
Right,
for the town maintenance. But I'm hearing they're not gonna allow that. We have to have this town maintenance, and this was in a meeting with the department heads.
do you
that
want me
approved
to,
this.
well, it was capital planning meeting that we approved this. It was agreed on February 26th, I guess it was. And then on March 18th, I think we reviewed the capital budget in our meeting. It's in the
And
minutes
voted.
that you just
Yeah.
did. It was either the 18th or the 19th, I can't remember. And this was agreed on. I'm uncertain at this point what FinCom is doing with this. One of their budgets allocated this to the police cars, the police leases. So instead of having this money go to the town hall repairs, they thought it should go to the police car leases. And then they decided not to do that. And after today's meeting, I'm not exactly certain. It doesn't matter. It was a vote by
Yeah.
capital planning. We should go forward with this and see what the town thinks. The reasoning was that so after all of these votes were taken, a vendor was asked to provide an estimate for doing town hall. And it came in at 16,000 more than the 53K that we have. However, one of the reasons for putting this article on the special town meeting instead of the annual town meeting was that these past articles that are being combined, the work could happen in fiscal year 2025. And consequently, facilities could get started right away. And if there are funds left in the budget for repair and maintenance or professional contracts or whatever, those additional funds could go towards this. Or you just do as much of the work as you can until the money runs out, and work with the vendor to see what is doable within that amount.
How long is the estimate good for?
I don't know.
So I imagine it would also probably go up
Well,
in the
materials
near
go up.
future, yeah.
Actually, that's true. So that was the reasoning for putting it in the special town meeting instead of the annual. So that work could begin immediately. Annual town meeting, those funds can't be touched until after July 1st. And then you miss some good weather months.
Right.
So.
Sorry.
You know, yeah.
Okay.
So why don't we move on to the annual town meeting warrant articles? The three planning board articles, were you hoping to read all three or?
Why don't we start with Article 1?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll do Article 1, and then I can, Mr. Moderator, I have a report.
Yeah, okay.
And that fits perfectly with going straight from the special town meeting to this, I guess. I don't know. That's okay with everybody? And then it would be on to Valerie for Article 2.
Mhm.
And where are we at with, that might put you perfectly for,
Yeah,
and you
great.
can decide how many of these you want to do.
I can do them all that have to do with planning,
Okay, so that's,
because I have all the backup for that. There won't be anybody from the floor speaking,
oh, really? Just you?
just me.
You, so you're
Um,
doing 3, 4, and 5, and 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
3. And,
Okay.
planning needs some volunteers too.
I just saw an email about that.
Yeah, I did too.
There's,
It was
From Beth.
yeah, from Beth, which will probably be on our next meeting, right?
Yes, we're meeting on the 13th, so let's put it on
I
there.
must have missed that.
It was
It just came in.
like just before this meeting,
Oh, well, that's-
15 minutes before.
I was on my way.
So look at it and, or the
Before we go
13th.
any further in this meeting, I apologize to anybody who I have not called back because and this will be today, because I take calls all the time. And I probably start at 7:30 in the morning and go until midnight, and with Sabrina, sometimes it's 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yes.
So today I had a 3-hour class, 3.5, whatever, hour class that I had to do. And during that, I did some text messaging, but that was it. I couldn't do my work, but I also work. So if I didn't get back to somebody today, it's because of that. I only talked to about a dozen people today alone and had the class. So, some people think I'm a superwoman. Well, my daughter thinks I'm a superwoman anyway. So far I can go. I really can only do 2 or 3 things at the same time. Now that I've made my apology, you can go on.
Okay, so Article 6
Okay.
is the Community Preservation Committee bylaw. Is one of us reading that, Nelson, or is that the committee that put that forward?
I mean, the motion is pretty short because we're just basically referencing what's printed in the warrant. The language is certainly pretty long itself, but people have the, you know, the warrant articles so they can sort of read it, you know, certainly during or before to
Okay,
get
that one is
to
mine.
be familiar with it. Bill
That's yours, Ron.
Rideout
Okay.
will be on hand to answer any questions.
Oh,
Good.
right.
Okay, all right, that's good then. Maybe he'll volunteer to read it if people ask to have it read.
The whole thing. But, I mean, it's
Wouldn't be the first time.
All right,
fair enough. There's 5 sections.
so you're Article 7 then, Valerie?
Yep.
I think it's great that we have 2 theme names on this board. Very unusual.
Unusual indeed.
Bless you.
Article 8 is yours, Laurie. That's the revolving funds. I'm Article 9. Which, by the way, the last I heard, the FinCom is voting against that.
Who's, okay, so you're 10?
I'm 9, Valerie's 10. Which is appropriate, actually.
Exactly. I'm fine
Being
reading,
the-
I'm fine reading any article. I really am. I have no problem with that, so.
Being the abstainer.
But I would,
Article.
if you want me to read it, I will read it. That's not a problem.
And Laurie, you get Article 11, just the budget.
That doesn't seem appropriate.
Like I said, I'm happy to read it. I have no problem reading it at all.
Right, Article 12.
When I do 10,
So who does that?
I think you should do 11, Laurie. Valerie's doing 10, you 11. Just rolling right along in our
I'm
rotation.
doing 11, is that what you said?
Yes. I'm doing 12. And I have a question about 12. And it's really one for Jane. Can I ask it now, or do we want to finish this and then come back?
No, you can.
Right. If you look at the budget. Find the line item I want. 121. If you look at 124, it lumps together both positions there. Yet in Article 12, we are setting the compensation. How does that work? We have a union and a non-union employee in there.
Article 12 pertains to the elected officials.
Mhm. And the only elected official in town
That's paid.
that's paid is line 122.
Those lines are usually separate.
Usually. Not this year.
Because we had to lump them together because, you know, of the cuts that we're proposing to be made.
And the union.
I'm not sure I understand the budget. The town clerk's salary is proposed at 70,000. Oh, that's,
It's grade F, step 1.
okay. And there's,
The Collins report put the town clerk at our grade F on our wage compensation, our class and compensation scale. And it's a new employee, new clerk. So step 1 seems fair to me.
Okay.
Maybe not to everybody, but to me it does. And that's where we had set it.
okay, so that would be town meeting, would be voting for that.
Okay, all right. Grade F, step 1. All right. I think it's a sticky one. That's all. We had also received a note from Nelson about that. I don't know if you all received it, but I did. That someone at town meeting is going to be proposing that it be a much higher rate than grade F, step 1.
I'm not sure why they would do that, because to raise the step like that, somebody's been there 15 years. And
We do have other employees on grade F that are farther out the scale. So it just seems fair to me, but just know that this could be a
we agreed on
sticking
that.
point.
We agreed.
Okay, all right. We don't have an executive session on here, do we? Anyway, Let's keep going. Article 13.
I would. Back to Lori.
Well, no, Valerie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to back up a minute. I'm looking at, some of these are majority, some of them are two-thirds, and it's kind of mixed up here.
Nope, depending on what the article is, the threshold to get it passed is different. Sometimes it's 2/3, sometimes it's majority.
Okay,
And John will announce those,
okay.
the moderator.
Yep, and when town council reviewed it, they provided to us what the threshold should be
Okay.
to get it passed.
Let's keep assigning, and then I want to come back and talk about Article 8, but let's keep assigning here. So, Article 14, we were at Valerie, so it's you, Lily, right?
Fourteen's me.
Yes. For the capital planning. And then 15 would be me, also capital planning. So it's the overlay surplus account for the 10,000. This came up last night at the FinCom meeting. So this is for the overlay surplus is the revenue source in the recap, correct? And it's for FY. Which one is it? Is it what came out of FY25, or is it what's being set aside for FY26?
Well, they have a surplus account, so
Okay.
that's
It's
cumulative.
Cumulative,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So that's Valerie, Article 16.
Oh. Oh, that's Lori, right? You were 15?
I'm 15, so you're 16.
Oh, yep, sorry. My bad.
That's okay.
I'm losing the order here somewhere.
Article 17 is Lori.
Yep.
Article 18 is me, that's the first of the HERO Act, right? Valerie, you're back. So I wanted to talk about Article 8. I didn't have time to digest it. This has to do with trash. From what I gathered this morning, not first of all from the FinCom. The FinCom did not have trash in. But then someone came on the Zoom and said, oh, but there will be trash. And I know that Carla said that during the Finance Committee last night that there would be a presentation by the Board of Health on trash. Do we know about that? And do we know where we're putting that in? A resident in town had sent me this clip about something that Dawn Priest had put up on Facebook saying, hey, is this true? I think you saw, Adam did respond to it today. So I forwarded those thoughts on, and they have to do with revolving accounts and whether or not stabilization can be used and blah, blah, blah. Nowhere in this meeting are we pooling funds from stabilization. Yet the FinCom seems to think that they can amend things during the budgeting process to pull money from stabilization. What I read from Adam's response was, yeah, no, you can't do that. No, you can't set up a new revolving account or use an existing one without having already had the process in place, similar to what we did in Article 9 for the revolving fund for town hall public records. That's what I read. Am I understanding that correctly?
Right, it's not on the warrant.
So anything that's not on the warrant can't be brought forward during the town meeting. I mean, we had a crazy town meeting in March, and I'm just trying to avoid, I want to make sure that we stay to the program.
Right, I mean, it's
In this
beyond
town
the
meeting.
scope, stabilization. Here, so obviously it would be the moderator's call, but it seems beyond the scope of the warrant.
It's beyond the scope of the warrant. Okay, I don't mean to be the select board dictator. However, I cherish the role. I'm kidding.
Just a question, because I don't know a lot of things. Can they use whatever fund they have now for the recycling place? Is that a revolving or enterprise fund?
So we revolving.
Okay, so can they combine that, do you think?
I had asked that during one of our meetings, joint with Board of Health, when Carla was saying, and we're going to charge Lunenburg more money. And I said, can we use that for the trash? And she said, no. And so I took that as God's truth. And I'm not, and so what I read in there is the answer from Adam is no, you can't use that. That you would have to set up a different one. And because it hasn't been set up in this warrant, it can't be. That just came in, I read it right before I came here at the same time I read Beth's to ask us to post for
And I
planning
haven't
board.
finished reading it. I didn't read his earlier
I read it.
email to Ross yet.
Yeah, it was a fast, because there is an earlier email to Ross in there, which I think you got it too. I don't know if everybody got it. I don't know if Lori or Valerie
No,
got
Arlene
it.
is on and her hand is up. I'm gonna address her. Arlene?
Yes, thank you. I'm at the bus stop here. I just wondering, there is an article that says a revolving a fund for recycling is at like I think 45,000. Could that be added if needed? Of like if you can set the time right then at annual town meeting, the max of that account. So if that account can be added for temporary and then can be done at a special town meeting and another one to move money, but I think you have to have that max expanded so that money can go in there because there is going in there. Grant money is going in there. Of course, the recycling, the transfer station money is going in there. But if it needed to be temporary, and I do think there is actually another account because I have one for Earth Day, and I think that could also go in there as well. So I think that's a revolving account, or it's just an account under the Board of Health.
No, I think the Board of Health only has that one. It must be under that one. Irene, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Do you remember the meeting? You were there, and Carla was talking about charging Lunenburg more money to use our recycling center.
Yeah, so that's a suggestion I gave to them. So I worked with two other towns that have opened their recycling center to other towns. The town of Lunenburg, as of right now, does get grant money for utilizing our recycling center. So the Board of Health and the town of Lunenburg have actually a draft, which I helped draft them up. Is the bus is like here. That it's just a small stipend to have utilized the transit stations.
Okay,
They
so
just
that's okay. I had asked if that could be used for trash, and I was told no.
just wait a second as I cross the road.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna
Let Sue talk in the meantime.
Okay, there's an article, isn't there? I think you just referenced it, about a new revolving.
Public records, yeah.
In that revolving fund motion, in that article, doesn't it define where the money comes from and what the money is used for?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
we do
So-
specify that.
So
Yeah.
if each one, because if my memory serves me, all right, and sometimes it's not great, every time we created a revolving fund,
you have to do
we
this.
specify where that money is going to come from and what it's to be used for.
Mhm.
So it's pretty well defined for each one of those
So you
revolving
can't add
accounts.
something.
So to do that ad hoc doesn't sound.
You can't do it.
Right.
That's what
Okay.
Adam
Yeah.
was saying. He said you can't
No,
just,
Yeah.
because
it's out of the scope.
the only way, and I think it's the state that defines what we can do for revolving funds. And-
Actually, we have the state defines
state
how to
defi-
create them.
Exactly. and
Our
that-
bylaw defines what they are.
Right, okay, so you'd have to reference the bylaw if there is one for recycle or for whichever ones you're talking about. But typically it says it when we create it. This is
just-
what it
yes.
is, and this is, I mean, you've had them.
Yeah, I
too.
Yeah.
created
Yeah.
three a few years back.
Yeah,
One to deal with public records, one to deal with cruiser administration fees that then we can then use to offset maintenance issues with cruisers. And the third one to recoup administrative fees for our fingerprint, for our firearms permitting process, to offset the costs of
and they
fire
have to be
fingerprint
very
machine.
well defined
And there was an
and
article that we-
specific,
And it was an
right.
article we presented at
Yes.
our meeting, I think, my research. You always find out.
I mean, because it's not, these are not open season kinds of
Yeah.
accounts,
Yeah.
so,
I
okay.
think you make a good point, and Adam's correct.
I'm in a select board meeting. Is it, can it wait or do,
I gotta get back to my town meeting, so,
okay,
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
So I am sitting back. Did you want me to answer back? I know that there was a question I was.
Did you hear that the revolving funds are specific and you can't do an add-on?
Right. It's not like it's definitely different. It is just for trash and recycling collection is what it is right now. But it would be for a temporary for this. But that might be for the annual special town meeting versus the annual town meeting. But it's on the warrant for the annual town meeting. I do have that in communities that an enterprise fund needs to be approved at annual town meeting. And a revolving account can be approved at any town, any special town meeting.
It's just that we don't have one on the warrant for this special town meeting, so you can't just add it on, is what it comes down to. It's not here.
It's not on the warrant to address.
Right. Yeah. I like our trash now is we have the bag money coming into the town. We don't have it under, it's just coming in. It's under the general fund. That's kind of where we are now. And that's what other communities do for other things. It's when you hit a certain number, it's beneficial to have an enterprise fund or a revolving account just to make the accounting look a little more streamlined, but it's still coming all out of the residents' pockets.
But not
Yeah.
as tax revenue.
It's all coming out of our money, no matter how you get it. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's not tax
exactly.
revenue.
yeah, it's either
Okay,
a
thank you,
fee,
Irene.
it's either a fee or a tax. And right now it's a combination.
It's not in the tax levy. In other words, it's outside of the tax
Yes.
levy is what I'm talking about. And if it's within the tax levy, not at this, it was voted down. If we wanted trash, we should have voted for the override. Or come up with a way that was in here as an alternative.
Been a lot cheaper if we just went for the 625 override and everything would have been copacetic.
Right.
And cheaper for everybody in the long run, but. Okay,
So,
Right,
the meeting, actually was able to get Pepperell to assist to live broadcast. At first, I thought they weren't able to do it because,
oh, I thought they were all along,
no,
but I didn't know.
I thought so, well, I knew they weren't potentially gonna be available, and the reason was, it was a placeholder. Pepperell had their annual town meeting last night, but
Uh-huh.
if there was
Oh,
a
for the
chance,
second.
it went a second night, then, obviously they would assist with Pepperell versus
Right.
helping us. But Pepperell's, annual town meeting took 2.5 hours last night, like,
That's a record.
yeah. I spoke to the
For an
TA. and-
annual town meeting.
So Pepperell's folks are
I
available.
wonder if Townsend will lead and be done within 3 hours.
I got it.
I did go and think, for next year, there's some thoughts I have on things that we could do that might help that seem to work for them. It's too late to change now, but, going forward, next year's budget process.
So
Just a few little things that seem to work really well, so.
So Pepperell's folks will be able to assist us to go live, because they're really the only ones with the capability in that venue to go live on Channel 9.
Okay.
So the folks that can't make it can certainly tune in and watch it. They won't be able to participate, obviously, but they can still view it. Everything should be all set. TCAM will be arriving there shortly to start setting up, along with the Pepperell folks and a couple of teachers, administrators, high school helping out as well. So, and printing out the handouts as after we adjourn this meeting. So we'll have handouts, a copy of the bound town annual report for anyone that's interested.
We will have budget copies, correct?
Correct.
And the recap.
Yes, that is the handout.
Okay, all right, good.
And then is finance gonna have a separate budget that they're handing out?
Yes.
I believe so, and that kind of segues us into 4.6. I don't know what that recommended budget looks like. I think they were still working on it this morning and probably.
When I walked in, there were just 3 of them downstairs.
Okay.
And
So,
I don't know if they're still there.
I mean, we certainly have
People
seen.
there when I walked in, yeah, would have been after you.
We certainly have seen, a preview of what it looks like, but there's probably tweaks to be made. My concern is, a lot of department heads haven't been consulted on it. Certainly bigger ones, I think the police chief might have been consulted earlier this morning, but I don't know if the fire chief has been consulted, so that's kind of my.
Did you speak with them this morning?
I did. The original budget that they had submitted, I think it cut my expenses line probably in the 15% or something. When I asked about that, their response was that it was a functional segment issue, meaning that they just needed the dollar figure, not necessarily out of the line that they proposed. I'm not knowing what that would do. Where we left it was, it's my understanding, I explained to them that those cuts were catastrophic, I couldn't do those, that I would actually lean towards a personnel cut and not hire an open position for the entire year, rather than just a quarter of the year, or whatever Nelson and I had come up with. Their response to that was that they were going to reflect that in their budget that they were going to work on to present at town meeting. I don't know what that looks like, because even that is difficult, because if you tell me $70,000 out of my personnel side, I have to unpack that and pull that out of the individual lines that it's much more
Sure.
granular than what they are suggesting. Suffice to say, either budget is tough for me, because next year, when I refund that position fully, I'm starting out the gate with a 2% increase in my personal services with the Selectboard budget. So that's challenging in and of itself. If the peach budget or whatever budget the FinCom comes up with were to pass, and it's a totality, I would be starting the year at a 4% increase next year in my personal services line, without even moving anybody on any scales, without incorporating any sort of steps or longevity payments or any of those issues. So both certainly challenging. I will do my best with whatever budget I get. But suffice to say, there is nothing to cut in the expenses part of our budget without catastrophic impacts to our ability to provide services. We are very lean. I think my initial budget prior to Nelson and I working together, I think my total budget increase was 2%. And I think at this point, it's probably zero, if not even 0.5% either way from zero. I mean, it is as neat as we can go without action. I can't go any other place other than people at this point, very honest.
Sue, did you have a comment?
That's the first time I've ever heard in all the years that I've been going to town meetings and involved. It's the first time I've ever heard about a finance committee coming in with their own budget. I question
I know,
their role from a legal perspective.
advisory, it's supposed to be advisory.
We have a policy, a finance policy. You know, this is how the budget is built, this is how it's presented. They certainly have recommendation rights and responsibilities. But I'm just trying to picture how Joe Q Public is gonna sit there and see the budget that's attached to the warrant, which is your handout, and try to compare that and be able to make a decision on a whole new budget that nobody's seen.
And we have, I don't know if you were here when I brought this up earlier, but we have, first time, 3 new people in just for like 2 months. And, half of the finance committee was new, less than 6 months. And so we thought it was gonna be a great idea if we had joint meetings. So we did, up until March 1st, when March 1st was a 7-hour day jointly with department heads in all of February. So all those, over 40 hours, all those meetings. And then March 10th happened. And what we had decided and thought was the way to go, which was gonna require an override, was shot down like within 10 minutes of the first presentation of the 2 warrant articles that separated and explained where everything was going in the government part and everything was going in the, what was going to the school budget. And then the motion to eliminate all free cash and absorb the school amount, forgiving anything that was gonna happen to the rest of the town, passed by 6 people. And we have been in turmoil ever since. But you have some influencers out there that think they know how to run the police department, how to run the fire department. I was on finance for 12 years when I first started, okay, way back when, with the oldies. And we would,
She doesn't mean me.
Or me.
Because I was here, you weren't.
but
Actually, I was.
yeah, you were. But we worked together. We met with all the departments, and all we did was recommend or not recommend what select board was putting forward. That was all. We certainly didn't get outsiders to start putting stuff, of course, there wasn't Facebook then, but putting stuff out there to rile people up who are never involved. They are not involved, yet they make disrespectful comments all over Facebook, thinking that all of us don't know what we're doing and we must be lining our pockets. That always makes me wonder, those who accuse are usually the ones who have done. Anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox on that.
I really hope that, I don't know if council's even looked into that part of it, but to me, it's not the finance committee's role to submit a budget to town meeting.
That's fine.
I mean, it's defined in state law what the finance committee is for. It's defined in our bylaws what the finance committee is for. It's defined in the policy, our budget policy, what is to be done and how it's to happen. And it just blows my mind totally. I can't into that.
What I expected, and going along with what both of you are saying, was that after that last week, Wednesday, Nelson had sent the budget, the one that is right here, had sent it to the FinCom, and I had expected that in that meeting, they would go through our budget. And it's fair game to recommend or not recommend what is in the budget.
And they could do that with the line item.
And they do that, write it up, take it to town meeting, present it to the people. Instead, what happened was they came in with the budget that had been created by two of the FinCom members and two town residents, apparently. That's what they said, if I remember correctly. And that is the budget that they reviewed. And I asked, it was towards the end of the meeting, and I said, but you haven't even reviewed our budget. This morning, it became clear that none of them had looked through the budget. And they started the meeting with the chair saying, I looked at the budget, and the chief, because Chief Sartell was at last night's meeting, and the chief had already made cuts to his budget that the chair at least was unaware of, because they hadn't gone through line by line, and he started to recommend that they go through the budget line by line and make the recommendations. But it was decided that that was not the way to go, that instead they should look at this budget and prepare a budget and ask that that budget replace the TA select board budget. So
And did the finance committee vote on that?
yes, they did.
So it wasn't an official subcommittee authorized by the finance committee?
Or the moderator. So I don't know, the moderator appoints the FinCom.
No, I know, but as a committee, I think they have the right to create a subcommittee, but that subcommittee doesn't have any power. They have to come back and officially report to their main committee.
They made some motion at the direction of the town resident who was there advising the FinCom, some motion that whatever votes they take during the subcommittee meeting is for all of them.
You can't do that. That's not how subcommittees work. Subcommittees have no power.
Anyway, so.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
It was, that's what I saw. The FinCom meeting is up online if you want to watch it, the one from this morning. So I don't know what else to say.
Thank you for informing me.
Thank you for coming.
So it's, we don't know what that budget looks like. Again, I think we have an inkling of, what might be in there, but it's anyone's guess what the ultimate proposal from them is.
Well, it was, right.
Might have.
In the end, it's hard to say. And they were going to meet with all the department heads today, and department heads were to report back to them by 4:00 on whether or not their suggestion for the amount to reduce by was okay with the department head, if they could do that in order to save jobs. Yet giving an amount does not necessarily save jobs. So this is a new experience.
Yeah.
And it's
And Sue, in your past experience, the budget was voted on at the functional segment as well?
Typically, years ago, we did it at a line item level, or at least a department level. I remember,
yeah, department
I remember
level.
most of the time, way back, that's the level that we were used to voting on. Because then if somebody wanted to call out something specific in the department budget, they could ask questions, on line item 25, whatever. I hope that's nothing. Anyway, I hope I didn't
Just a
step
make,
on
just
something
a
there.
made up
But-
number.
Right, but then it seemed to morph into a, let's hurry up and get the town meeting going. And because I'm remembering, John Stonefield's wife and they had specific questions, and we had line item budget in front of us, we voted at the department level and then at the functional level. And it made it easier, I think, for the accountant, because the accountant at the same time was monitoring any changes that were made, so that you ended up with the right
Yes.
totals.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all through the meeting.
And the accountant was always part of that, keeping track of what we would be voting on. Then it morphed into doing it just at the functional level, which I in particular didn't care for.
That was like it, and that Kreidler did that in 19,
No, it actually
It was
happened
before that.
before that.
before.
It's been for a long time.
Yeah, and I think part of it was people didn't want to sit through a whole bunch, and they're looking more at a higher
Yeah, well,
level.
we used to do 2 or 3 nights
Yeah,
way back when.
yeah, because we were really anal about looking at every penny,
And now
you
it's
know?
worse.
And, well, it is and it isn't. But I think we lost something not going by department, because I think people lost, a view to that. But that's just my personal opinion. Typically, in the last several years, I'd say the last 10, 12 years anyway, we've gone at a functional level. But that doesn't mean that you can't open it up at the
Right.
at the line item level, so.
That's what happened last
It's
time.
just, you know what it is,
Functional
I
segments.
just don't think it's, I think it's a lot to ask of people sitting in town meeting to have a functional amount. And then even just for the schools, you know, you've got four line items for the school.
Mhm.
You really don't get
You
detail.
have to be bouncing back and forth. You know, it's more difficult to do it that way. And I think you lose sight of what's making up the totals, you know? And I think people sometimes get frustrated with that. But
Well, when you look at all the line items and,
I think the town can vote on which way they want to do it.
well, the people could vote, yeah,
Whatever.
whatever
Well, it's-
motion they make
I don't
on it.
think it's fair game.
I think they can make a recommendation or a request to the town moderator, and the town moderator will probably not be happy with going at a more finite level, but usually he leaves it up to the discretion of the town meeting.
At some point in time, I think the meeting drags on too long, especially outside of it's set for one night. If we don't change that to multiple, I think it actually can dissuade some people from coming because it's going on for so long.
And I think that's part of what used to happen.
It's you're gonna, especially younger voters who have kids at home and stuff, if we are going multiple nights through a budget, I think you will lose those people participating to some degree.
Yeah.
If it's set in policy, you know, I know some other towns set it for 2 nights in their actual policies, so like that, then people would know, well, maybe I'll go to one night, not the other night or something, but where we have it set for one night.
I don't know that it was ever policy. If we
Oh,
didn't make it through the one night, then it was.
Oh, yeah,
the
of course,
next
but
night.
I mean, you know, when it's actually set for this day versus, you know, like other towns set it for a full Saturday, you know, and it goes 10 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah,
We did Saturdays at some one point, way back.
yeah, well, we did during COVID too.
We did.
Just again, to think about for, like you're saying, it's kind of not valid tonight, but
I mean, I think, given what's going on now everywhere, I think people are paying a little bit more attention to numbers. They're paying attention to their own numbers. And I don't think it hurts to do it at least at maybe even the department level. You these guys a chance to speak for
Absolutely.
what they're doing, you know?
See what happens then.
I know I see ambulances and police cars coming up my street a lot more now than I used to.
I work late in my office and I now have a scanner. And they're busy.
Well, I just worry because it's, a lot of us older folks that are, I wasn't old when I moved here, but, you know, that's exactly.
True for a lot of us.
We were not in favor of cutting police and fire, especially since fire has brought in, because of their services, so much more money in the last 4 years, doubled what EMS has brought in. But, and we have a good crew.
You also start to incur overtime costs when you start cutting personnel.
Yeah.
That's the
And-
difficult part of it.
And I think at least that during my past time as a select board member, when I walked away, I'm not exactly sure because I wasn't paying close attention. But I have the numbers. I read them to FinCom this morning. In fiscal year 21, our unbudgeted overtime for public safety was $274,453. That is above what was already budgeted, which was in the hundred thousands. FY 22, it was $197,547. And there's been, and I was involved with, I think, one more budget before I walked away. And there was an effort to make things real, to make the budget that you had to be the actual budget. And that involved also paying more for on-call folks, paying more for our providers, you know, our emergency service providers, whether police, fire, etc. I know one of the line item cuts made on the first budget I saw was to on-call firefighters. Well, that means that the quote unquote volunteers, the guys in town who are on call and paid at a lower rate than those who are full-time, can't be called. The full-time guys have to be called and they've already worked their shift. So then you're looking at time and a half or double time.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just real quick on the replacing of employees as well. It's never easy to retrain people to do any jobs in our town. I understand that, and I'm not trying to say one group of employees is more important than another. But I will say that if you were, and I can't imagine if fire is any different, or if they are, it's not much different for us. My estimated cost to replace a full-time person that leaves is in excess of 6 figures. It's in the $100,000s of dollars. So my problem becomes if you throttle that and do not fill a position, for me to get someone back up and running to reschedule them on my schedule by themselves out there working is a 9-month to year-long process. You add on the time that I recruit, you add on our testing procedures and such. I would have to start now to replace someone in next October. Right. And that's kind of how that worked. And that person would not even be probably on their own earning straight time and just filling a shift for a lag of anywhere between 9 and 10 months. So for us, it's difficult because the decisions we make now are not necessarily going to impact us in the 6-month window. You're talking a year out for us whenever we make these decisions. The budget that the selectmen had put staggered our hire till the fall. If the FinCom's budget went in and I was to have to cut that position entirely, where it wouldn't affect us at all in fiscal 26 because it would be a donut hole. In fiscal 27, even if I restored funding, I wouldn't have that person up and running and plugging that overtime hole probably until the next fiscal year, if maybe the end of that fiscal year. So it's a lagging detriment for us when we do these personnel issues, because getting an officer up and running is a lot different than getting an office worker up and running or a person of another department up and running. That's the considerations that I make when I make those decisions about personnel.
And board, that can't even be compared to, not to be disparaging of other jobs across our other facilities. But you can't compare that need for professional training to people who work in the town hall or work for the highway department, or you can't.
Or the water
compare.
department.
The training is
Yeah.
different. It's a
Really?
different type.
I
of
understand
training.
that.
You can't
Yeah.
compare it, so, I mean, I understand that, sometimes people think that it's favoritism, but it's not, it's common money sense too.
I'm sure it's the same for the school too. You wanna get qualified teachers, you know? And I don't know what else to say. Maybe these are last and what's on
Well, all I have to say is we have a budget. I at least feel confident in our budget. It might not be perfect. There might be places where things can be changed, but I am confident in it, and I think it does the right thing for the town. And that will be a quote
still
on
think we should
Facebook
get
in a few minutes.
I don't know how we're gonna do it. I think there's gonna be ramifications to that, for sure, for the town, like townwide, that we may not be thinking of, that aren't gonna be pleasant. But, what are we gonna do? I don't know what to do. I
We
don't
go
know.
forward with what we have. We followed a process. We did the process. Again, I had thought that, when everything happened, I had asked when FinCom was gonna meet again, and I was told first week of April, so I figured, okay, we have a week and a half to kind of figure out, and then they met the same day as us, like 2 days later.
I don't know. It was like, I guess it was a bad idea to do joint.
I
Should've
don't
just
think
kept it the
so.
way it used to be.
No, I
Look what
think doing
happened.
joint is okay. I think that, I don't,
Uh-huh.
I think everybody needs to reread the policies.
yes,
I think also that
and now they're not
If
accessible
you can find them,
online.
I was just gonna say, if you can find them,
Kidding.
try finding something.
I have copies of them. Yeah.
And I think just also like the calendar for the budget, there's some stuff out there, so FinCom can be aware of what our schedule is and what the process is and stuff.
We used to do them.
I also,
This is all for after this budget gets
Yeah.
done.
I also think, we've talked about having a financial team meeting. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I've harped on this because I was so disappointed, but we got a community compact grant in December of 22. My term was done April of 23 for ClearGov software. And and this is the software that Pepperell uses, by the way, for their process. We had the software. I had to log into it, as did all of the select board, all of the FinCom, the financial team downstairs. I know because I went into it and looked at it. And so at the end of December, beginning of January, Eric, and you can see this in one of the FinCom meetings where he comes in and says, we're going to have the data populated, and then there will be trainings, but we were in the beginning of the heavy duty budget process. And then I was gone in April and nothing ever happened with that. And that was that. But we do need something that we can all agree to use that we use for budgeting for the town. And it may mean that we have to move a few things around, like maybe our categories, this gets moved there, but I think they're all based on what DLS uses in their categories.
We had a software before. It was paid for by Charlie Baker's administration. We had the Collins Institute come in. They did the study. They sat with everybody. They did the budget. They trained people on how to do it. And it wasn't just the budget, it was all the forecasting.
So you had software? Do you remember what product it was?
I would be glad to share it with all of you. I shared it with Eric I shared it with Chaz, it went nowhere. I actually dug it up. I went back to the Collins Institute. I contacted the head of the Collins Institute. And I said, the only reason I'm contacting you is because you were there at that time. And I know that if anybody remembers it, he sent it back to me within a day. Is this what you're looking for? Yeah. Sent it to Eric, sent it to Chaz, never got used. And the reason I did that was because I heard people talking about the same kind of capability that we had already gotten.
Well, that's how
grant
I
from the
feel.
state
So
for.
you were doing it. I feel like
So
it
now
was
we've done it
already,
twice and we still
and
don't
we're
have
still
it.
not there.
That's great.
And I
That's
think
great.
having the meeting of everybody involved in this financial process, maybe inviting some people who've done it in the past to give advice so that next year we can just, at least if there's question, we can say we all agreed this was the process. And
If
we all bought into that process so that
if you ever.
some continuity between all the groups involved in
I
finance.
don't
It's
ever
just-
wanna run again. I actually don't even wanna go to town meeting, okay? But I would be very willing and honored to work on anything having to do with processes. And you lost all your institutional knowledge.
Right.
And you have to kind of drag some of that up from the
Kind of
depths
why I ran.
and figure out what worked, what didn't. And I would be glad to volunteer to help with something like that. Pro bono.
We're writing it down.
Yeah.
Where are the volunteer forms?
What about what?
Where are the volunteer forms?
Well, here's the thing too. We have a budget process and we did agree with it. And now at least, there are people who aren't on committees. I mean, I would have loved to have had a third select board member, someone from town that we could have just pulled in to come and consult with us and send us stuff, for the past couple of months. I mean, so
Well,
you
that's
can agree on all the
5 months.
policies and say you're gonna use this. And then you can have, it's the beauty and the weakness of the form of government that we have here in New England.
Well, let's go by the rule of law as much as we can, and maybe things will straighten out.
I have hope.
I do too.
Thank you for your comments, much appreciated. And
Where are we at? And somebody kind
I think we're
We're
done
finished
with,
at 4.6.
yeah, so
of, okay.
I don't have any updates. The board,
is there a motion to present what we had agreed on for our budget? A motion to recommend fiscal 26 budget?
We already did
We're
that,
not
didn't
doing
we?
that one.
I thought we were all the way down to liaison reports.
Oh. Because we don't have the finance committee budget.
Not exactly. They worked on it all day, so
Okay, well, we don't.
it'll be a surprise.
So there's no 4.6. Any other reports, updates for us?
I have one thing. I went to the the MMA Small Town and Rural conference this weekend, and this was one of the presentations. And it's kind of a community building thing, how to get things done. If you have an idea and you want idea friendly, gather your crowd, build connections, take small steps. It was a really good presentation. So they had these cards. So I figured I'd get one for each of you, just for, something to look at. They talked about, of course, it was in Holyoke. So there were Western Mass reps and state senators there, as opposed to our representatives. But they discussed the cherry sheet budget and the regional school district getting additional funds and the level funding of the UGA money in the cherry sheet in the hopes that it would trickle down to the towns. For this year, I don't expect that trickle to happen because the budget was already approved, which means we have to approve the school budget, which we were going to anyway. So, but it means that the school district does not have to provide any more money for the towns, even though they did get some additional funding, which is a good thing for the schools.
They got additional funding, but that's
But
not.
we
gonna
do not,
affect us
we
at
got
all.
levels. In FY27, I am hopeful that that funding will continue and that we will see a trickle down from it. Not a trickle down, a pour down from it.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say. So that was discussed, and then there was an EMS. There was a really good EMS discussion. I think I sent you, Nelson, that they were looking for questions from communities. I forwarded it to you and to Gary.
Oh, yeah.
It was EMS and regionalizing services. They did a lot of talking about that. And I know, and there was someone from the Collins Center there whose job it is to do regionalization of services between towns or separate nonprofits, outfits that we're talking about ambulance services specifically, not fire. It was a good presentation. So when they posted, and I'll send it to you guys.
Okay.
So anyway, but this one was good. She was a really good speaker. There were only 3. It was a half day. 3 presentations.
Something else, Nelson? No?
We went to the new Mass Municipal Association training in June. That's about all I got.
You'll love it.
It is good.
It's a full day.
I
at
did
Devon,
one when
so.
I became a select.
When is
It was
that?
good.
June 13th.
It's at Devon's, and they say you can
You
go.
can go.
Yeah.
You might want to look at this.
I'll forward you the information, Laura.
And Lori, if you haven't gone, it's really good.
I'll forward it to you.
It
I
is.
haven't gone to the full day things. I've taken a number
It's
of the
specifics.
MMA.
It's specifically for new selectmen. It's
Yeah.
really good.
I think you might not, because you were elected out of cycle, I bet you didn't get the email. So I'll
But
forward it to you.
everybody's invited.
It's in the
You said
latest
it's on the
beacon.
13th?
Of June. It's the full day.
And if you get the MMA beacon publication, it's in there.
I'll forward it to you, Laura.
Okay. Can we go to the same thing?
Because it's training, yes.
Open meeting law isn't.
It's training, I think we're
It's-
fine.
It's training, you're fine.
Okay, we don't have to sit.
Won't be
we won't-
deliberating.
No,
We shouldn't sit next to
You
each other.
talk to
We
each
can
other
talk,
and
actually.
everything,
Oh.
yes.
In fact, I'm afraid to turn sideways, really, you know?
I'm not, I'm turning all I can. We'll see how many I can collect.
I mean, it's just.
The other day I walked to the
What a
building,
waste
Lori's
of
like,
time.
"Mm."
Oh, God.
Even when they said it was for new selectmen, I went.
Oh,
They, in the thingy that I read in that publication, it said that even people that have been selectmen, it's good to go like for a refresh kind of thing.
Especially because they
Okay,
talk
I'm
about,
gonna
different-
X
they
out
talk
that
about
day.
different things every year.
Yeah,
You know, new
And send it.
legislation and whatnot, so.
and sometimes things change, you know, it's,
Exactly.
oh, I'm sure they change all the time.
yeah, so it's, I find things like that well worth going to. That's why I do not eliminate training lines in budgets. I think that you're stronger if you go
So,
to the trainings.
we,
as a-
this is free, nobody's paying for it.
Yeah, that one is free,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not.
And I paid for my own training
Yeah, I
on
don't-
Saturday so that nobody could say, oh, the town's paying, look, she's taking the money.
There was, I know there was a question, someone at FinCom said, because there's a motion for the 5-person board, that it would cost the town more for a 5-person board.
For what?
And so, yeah, that just may come up in the meeting.
But it's MMA memberships. You do have to,
It's a town membership.
it's a town membership, yeah.
So I don't think it,
I didn't pay for it.
No, the town does. It's the training line.
Oh, so we're gonna pay for 5 instead of 3 in the budget, I mean?
I
No.
think it's a town membership.
Oh,
They're just making
And then
some,
there's
someone might ask for
different
clarification on that.
sections of it that you can
On the
join.
floor.
Yeah, so how would that cost any more money? Since-
If you were to take certain conferences where you have to pay by the person, you may incur some expenses there. But I think the paid conferences that selectmen go to is far and few between. The only one I can think of is the MMA in Boston.
The
every
one I went to
January.
on Saturday was a paid conference. I just paid it myself. I wasn't even gonna ask. I think it's worth it. And, you know,
Okay,
it would be all over Facebook. No time flat.
oh, God. I really don't have anything except, I mean, I hear from a lot of the boards that I liaison to almost every single day, more than once. So I think everybody's just,
Fatigue.
upset about their budgets, that's all. And they are, I'm gonna mention again, there is no smoking allowed on town properties. Inside, outside, in your car, it's not allowed on any town properties. Employees do not get special privileges to smoke on town properties. Began in 1999, the policy did. So,
Which
and
we can't
and it
see.
came out of the Board of Health. So it's better not to smoke, and it's also better not to have to smell somebody else's smoke. And I noticed it more recently myself, but didn't say anything. Somebody mentioned it to me, but you shouldn't have to come out of your car to walk into the building and smell smoke. Shouldn't have to do that. It's offensive. Other than that, we have volunteer forums and still lots of positions available. And our next meeting is, we will be meeting again at 6 o'clock at the high school. Right?
Yes.
Today? 7.
Today's the 7th, but we're, okay, so today's the 7th, sorry, for the annual meeting. And then we meet on the 13th of May.
Next Tuesday at 6.
Correct,
And we have a joint with the Board of Health that day, correct?
correct.
I believe we
It's
do.
not on my agenda, but I think I saw an email.
I think we did it for 7, we set it up last week at our meeting.
Yes,
I
Rena
think it was
knows that it was set up at my
7:15
first
or something.
meeting, yeah.
Yeah, it's at 7:15. So we're working out the
Oh,
details
7:15.
to make sure we, everyone posts correctly for the joint meeting.
During the Board of Health.
Yeah, it's been done.
All right, 5.5, is there a motion?
I'm sorry.
I move that we review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any
Sorry, I already
discussion?
got it.
That's
Hearing none, roll call,
Veronica Kell, yes.
Probably good at Jai. Yes. Aye,
and
yes.
Laura Schiffern, aye. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now you motion to adjourn.
Oh,
That was the motion
make-
for us to sign.
I make a motion
Is
to adjourn the meeting at 4:29 PM.
there a second?
second.
Everyone okay? Aye?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.